All right, so hey everyone, it's nice to meet you. My name is Tal. I'm a publishing manager at CrazyLabs. I'm managing studios around the world, from ideation to full launch games. So for the ones who don't really know CrazyLabs, we are one of the top 3 hyper-casual publishers in the world, but we are also actually a proud developer for successful casual and hyper-casual games. A nice milestone that we just crossed, it's the 6 billion downloads on our store. We got roughly around 190 million monthly active users on our account. Today, I want to speak with you about some cool tips that are going to help you prototype your game. I'm going to split it for 3 different sections. We're going to start from ideation, then we're going to move to CPI or marketability test, and we're going to finish with the day 1. So let's just jump right over to the ideation. So the first and the most important thing for me is to go and play other games in order to get inspired. I can tell you that my first task in CrazyLabs when I arrived was first go and play the top 20 hyper-casual games. The reason behind it is, first of all, to understand what are the successful games at the moment that we can see on the top chart, and to understand what is working over there. The second thing is to try to understand what other publishers are doing, what type of test, what type of subgenre, theme, color asset, everything that can help your game become better. And another thing that will be good for you to check if you have an access is to try to understand what type of prototypes each one of the publishers are making. I'm not speaking about games that got published. I'm speaking about new tests, like a CPI test that went live. So, after we play games, we understand what's happening in the market. This is the time for us to go and summarize everything and identify the trends that we want to reflect on our game. So when I'm speaking about trends, usually most of the studios will think about trends that are coming from social media, things like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, or even from TV shows and movies. But when we are speaking about trends, we're speaking on a much wider area. When we're speaking about trends, we're speaking about each part of the core of your game that can be trend. What do I mean? I mean that you should get a trend for the subgenre, for a theme, for a mechanic, for control. So each one of those parts going to make your game become better. So I want to share with you something super interesting. The chart that you can see over here is coming from the CrazyLabs trend report. It's a monthly trend report that we release for all our studios and partners. Over there, they're able to see a lot of the things that we are speaking about right now. So I want to show you something interesting that we can understand just by looking on data, something that's going to help us to understand the trends. So on the bottom one, I know it's a bit hard to read. So on the bottom one, this is the amount of prototype by subgenre that got tested on the last January. And the other one is the percentage of top chart games that release by subgenre. Something super interesting that we can see is clickers on the right side. It was on January, it was 25% of all tests in both of the stores was clickers. What's interesting about it is that less than 5% of the clickers actually hit the top chart. What it means for us as a publisher? It means that first of all, we have less opportunity to publish those kind of clickers. Maybe they have a good KPIs, but in the end, it's hard to scale the game. Now, the idea behind this trend report is not to tell the studio what to do. It's about to understand what is the educated decision that you can take out of this data. On the other end, we can take a look on different subgenres that we can see, like runners, simulation, arcade. Those kind of subgenres tested less than the clickers, and the hit ratio is much higher. So for me and for my studio, this is the place usually that we want to see and want to be. So this one is only one slide from the trend report, the monthly trend report, that we are summarizing all the data. There are much more super interesting data for the studios who have an access to. So for the ones who don't really got the access, you can use different kind of platforms like Data AI or Sensor Tower. You can definitely try some interesting data over there. or even some different publications. At the moment, we are in the AGC. If you will go to AGC website, you will be able to see a lot of different case studies that show an interesting data that can be pretty useful for you. So we are still on the ideation part. So we play the games, we find the trends that we want to do. Now it's the time to go and look for a reference. So what do I mean by looking for a reference? It means that, first of all, the references games that you're going to look for, it's going to be by games that literally got a huge success. I'm not looking to see, to get a reference from a game that it's look nice, it's doing okay. I want to make sure that the reference game that I'm going to take, it's going to be a successful game. Now, when I'm saying a reference game, I'm not speaking about take one game and make a clone. I'm speaking about choose each part of your core gameplay and took a reference for. So it means that you should have a reference for the camera view, for the asset, for the color palette, for the subgenre, for control. Each part of your core, pretty much you should reference for. Some of the time, yeah, you can invent the wheel and have something super innovative that you don't have a reference. But from my experience, 99% of your time, you will definitely have a reference game that you can do. So after we summarize everything, we got all the subgenres that we got the subgenre, the control, the mechanic, everything that we know that we want to implement in our game. For us, it's the best time to go and create a high-level GDD, which is a game design document. Over there, you're going to summarize pretty much all the core parts, game loop that you want to have in your game. So we find the game, we understand what trends we are using, we found the games to reference for, we made the build, now it's the time for the first test. It's the time for the marketability or CPI test, no matter how we're going to call it. It's the first time to see how the user is engaging with what we just create. Now, usually when we're speaking about CPI, most of the publisher, the tips that it's going to be about the videos. But this time I don't want to speak about how to make your videos better. We spoke about it a lot, and sometimes it's hard to predict. But actually, there are a different section that a lot of the studios not giving an effort. And it's about to nail your storefront. So you need to remember that the video, it's only 50% of your job. So engaging with the user is coming to the store, but from here, no one said it's going to download the game. So this is the best time for me to make sure that I'm selling the game for the user. It's the last moment that I can actually engage with the user. So the first thing that I want to speak about is the game name. It should be short, clear, and it should reflect what is the game about. What do I mean? Let's take a good example like DIY keyboard or phone case DIY. Just by reading the names of those games, immediately you understand what the game is going to be about. You don't really need so much. So even if I will get a pitch that the name is phone case DIY, I understand what I'm going to do over there. I don't need more than that. On the other end, you can take a look on bad example, in my opinion, games like Fun Action Runner or Jump Shooter. Those names are not good for a couple of reasons. First of all, they are too long. Some of them have spaces between each one of the words. But the main issue that it's not really explaining for me what I'm going to do inside the game. I mean, fun, that's great. But all of the games should be fun, so it's not really helping me to understand what I'm going to do in the game. So after you find a good game name, it's the time for you to go and think about the icon. Again, it should be pretty much simple and straightforward. One super thing that you need to understand and remember that when you're developing your game, when you're developing the game and think about the icon, you need to make sure that it's going to be super clear even when it's small. Remember that the user's going to see the icon in the phone, and for that reason, you cannot include a lot of different objects. So you got two references for one good icon, another one is not good. Both of them coming from Lunchbox Ready, a game that released recently with CrazyLabs. The one from the left, it's showing you a lunchbox, that's true, but when the icon is small, you can't really understand what's going on over there. There are too many objects, and I'm not really getting the action that's happening in the game. The other one, we are using the lunchbox, but we remove a lot of the object. We have like 2, 3 different objects, and we also implement some action that's happening inside the game to the icon. So from the icon, I can feel a bit of emotion, I can feel a bit of the gameplay just by the icon. So that's pretty much the idea behind the game icon. And of course, last, which is clear, but it's important, just make sure that your icon gonna look like a game and not like a different app. So next thing about nail your storefront, gonna be the screenshot. It should pretty much highlight all the steps and the progress of your game. What do I mean? I want to show you 2 different examples, both of them coming from a game, again, that we released recently, a game that's called Makeup Kit. The one on the bottom, it's showing you different assets, which is cool and it's nice, but I'm not getting any kind of progress. It's the same step, different asset, I don't understand what is the goal. On the one on the top, you're getting a bit of each one of the steps, you're getting the ending result, and you're also getting a bit of the meta. The idea behind it is exactly like the video. So user watch a video, he understands the process, the progress, of the gameplay. He reached to the storefront, now we can see the same progress that he saw in the video in the screenshot. So pretty much take the video, cut it into a screenshot that reflecting each step of your game, and put it as a screenshot. Last one, which is important, and a lot of studios not putting in effort, it's the description. The description is the lower part. Here we can see the storefront of Mystical Mixing. The lower part is the description. It's not enough for you just to write the name of the game and the version. That's not a description. The description is your last point to sell the game for the user, and you need to make sure that it's going to be clear for them what they're going to get. So besides understand that you're implementing all the features and all the progress that you will have on your game, make sure that you have a good keywords inside the description for users who search the game. So for example, a game like Mystical Mixing probably should have the word mystical, mixing, magic, creature. Those kind of names will help the user to find the game when they're looking for this one. I will say that the description should be around 3 to 4 different sentences, at least. It should not be too long, but definitely not too short. And if you're not the best copywriter, go for ChatGPT. It's a great place for you to just generate a description in no time. So we find the game, we summarize it for our trends, we understand what are the references, we nail the storefront, we test the game, we got a good CPI. Now is the time for us to go and prepare the build. Now, there are a lot of things that we can speak about the day one retention build, but you need to make sure that right now we are not making the full game. For us, a day one build, it's a build that have around 30 to 40 minutes of original gameplay, not more than this. And there are a couple of things that is important to focus, and there are a couple of things that is important not to focus. So the first thing and the most important is to make sure that you focus only on the core game loop. It's not the time for you to go to look for some different monetization strategy or developing the meta of the game. It's definitely not the time for this one. The reason for this is that first, what we want to see is that the users are enjoying to play the core mechanic. If users are not enjoying to play the core mechanic, the game is not good, and no meta will help the game to be a successful game. So first thing, focus on the core mechanic, the core game loop. Make sure that it's super satisfying. Make sure it's not too repetitive. Make sure that you're enjoying to play the game. Make sure that your family, your friends, your kids enjoying to play the game. If they are enjoying, and we got a good result on the day one, this will be the time for us to go and develop the meta, then even craft some different monetization strategy. So I spoke over a lot about different type of tips and data, which not all of them you have an access as a studio. For studios working with CrazyLabs, they're using the Click dashboard. The Click dashboard, first of all, it's a testing platform that allow you to get a transparent live data from all the tests, which is amazing. But beside being a testing platform, it's actually a great place for our studio to get the knowledge. Some of the data that I spoke about, some of the information that you saw over, everything you will have in the Crazy Academy. In the Crazy Academy, you have tips and articles about how to nail your videos, the storefront, the CPI, what is the best color palette for each type of game, how to use AI or any kind of thing that you imagine about testing your game. You will gonna find it over there. Beside that, of course, you have a help center, which we give a technical help for each one of the studios, I don't know, from upload the game to the store to implement the level funnel. So it's pretty much a one-stop shop for all our studios in order to just get the game and test much, much better. So that was everything from my side. Thank you very much for listening, and I will be happy to answer for some questions.